You are listening to the Bold Dreams Held Loosely podcast hosted by myself, Taryn Watts, and my colleague and dear friend, Michelle Theriault. We believe that the quality of the conversations you're inside of shapes the quality of your life. Whether that's a conversation you're having with others, listening in on, or contemplating within yourself, what you think about and where you direct your energy matters. At the Mind Rebel Academy, we train and support change makers to step into their life's work as world-class coaches and leaders. After mentoring hundreds of people from around the world, what we've come to realize is that the most extraordinary coaches and leaders have one thing in common, and this is that they are wildly devoted to living deeply examined lives. After all, you can only go as deep with another as you're willing to go within yourself. And this podcast is just that. Michelle and I, two coaches and leaders, having raw, honest, very human conversations that are expanding our minds, opening us up to new possibilities, and keeping us steadfastly committed and focused to walking our path towards our deepest yearnings and greatest visions. And our intention is that these conversations do the same for you. So get comfy and settle in. And as always, you're invited to take what's for you and gently leave the rest. Enjoy. Okay, so today we want to dive into this concept of slow visioning.
Yeah.
So we've heard of concepts like slow fashion and slow eating. And my personal word for 2024 is slow. Right in now, in this moment, I'm not feeling slow. I was just telling you that before we pressed record. I had quite the morning with the kids and just things. But my intention for this year is slow, like really slow. And I was doing really good. And then I kind of got off course a little bit. And so I'm excited to unpack this topic with you, Michelle, and talk about this, kind of bringing me back to slow.
Yeah.
My life feels like in this season of my life we're in such similar seasons of life with young children and busy jobs, and my life feels like it's just the years are speeding by. Like it's just years are going by and it feels like months have just passed. It feels like we're like I'm on fast forward.
Mm.
And that feels like a very like my almost like a preset condition is moving fast forward. And I think life and also business, like being a business owner, everything is moving so fast. Pieces move so fast. Things move so fast. And I am really wanting this year to be very intentionally slowing everything down
Mm.
so that every moment, every interaction, every even task is not on autopilot, like getting to the next thing. I'm not rushing through my day or rushing through my hour or rushing through my life. It's like everything is done really intentionally, mindfully, slowly, like with care, with love, with, with gratitude. And that's how I want to move through my days this year. Isn't that really, it's not about slowing down the outer circumstances of my life. It's actually not about that. It's not about slowing down how much I work or slowing down what we got, all the activities we've got going on at home. It's not about that. It's about slowing me down.
Mm.
like as I move through my life.
Yeah. One thing that I liked that you said, actually, I think it was Erin. I think you shared this with me. I think it was something that she expressed is that in the definition of slow that we're using right now, we're actually really not even talking about speed. It's actually something entirely different. So it's like, we're talking about the idea of slow that doesn't necessarily change a timeline, make something take longer to happen. Actually, like, uh, it doesn't necessarily mean that, which which makes me love this word slow even more because for me, there's like two different things. There's the part of me that actually wants certain things to go slower, move slower. And then there's a part of me in other areas of my life that's really impatient. And those two things kind of play tug of war sometimes. When there's certain things in my life where I think, oh, I just want to be in 5 years from now and I want to skip all this part. And there's other things in my life where I think, oh, I just want to like live in this moment forever and I never want it to end. I want to spend more time here. And so I like that. I like this exploration of slow as something that could contain both of those yearnings. That doesn't necessarily mean anything about um, objective time or pace. Almost like this, it's not like a new definition of slow, because this is literally what people mean when they say slow food, slow eating,
Right.
slow fashion. So we're not inventing it here, we're borrowing it. But I love this. The energy of that meaning of the word slow, because it means something more like not cutting corners. It means not skipping essential pieces. It means not rushing through the joy. It means making room for savoring. It means like wonderful, holistic, enjoyable, healthy. It means like good things.
Mm-hmm. And like quality things.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I think about slow food or slow fashion, the output, like the meal in front of you or the piece of clothing, um, I think about the output being such high quality. So, and I think about slow food, which is like the opposite of like fast food culture, And like is there anything on the face of this planet more delicious than slow food?
No.
And because it was slow, you want to like when it comes to you, when it's finally prepared, when you finally have it in front of you and it's time to eat, I'm going to speak for myself. I'm not scarfing it down, eating as fast as I go on the go. Like I'm like lighting a little candle and like pouring my favorite drink and like eating slowly and literally savoring every single bite because I have such an appreciation for how long this took.
Mm.
My aunt, we're Italian, and she makes this lasagna that takes her 2 full days to make. 2 6-hour days to make this one plate of lasagna because of how she makes the noodles and how many layers she puts in and how she braises the ribs and like everything that goes into it. And she makes it because it takes so long. We get it for Christmas. It's like once a year we get this. And when I cut into this lasagna, like layer by layer, I could bring tears to my eyes because it's like I have such an appreciation for her and the love she put into making this. And every bite feels I feel so nourished and so grateful for like it's my favorite food in the entire world. It's my favorite thing in the whole world. And like to that, she represents slow food. Like that represents slow food. And I think there are variations of how slow food can be. But, it's like the output is such high quality.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Um, there's something about this concept of slow. Also, what it has me do, whether I'm thinking about it in relation to my food, or if I'm thinking about it in relation to clothes, or if I'm thinking about it in relation to any aspect of my life, one thing I notice it has me do is look backwards farther than I'm normally looking back, and look forwards normally than I'm like farther forwards than I'm normally looking. So like the opposite of this type of slow would be fast, but also very like uh, a little bit short-sighted, like a little more instant gratification, or just not
Mhm.
looking at the whole context, not looking at where I've been, and not looking at further forward to
Mhm.
where I want to go. And this idea of slow, especially, or also as it relates to just slow living or slow visioning, I feel like what it has me do, or in order for me to tap into what does it mean to actually live slowly, what does it mean to vision slowly, a necessary piece I'm noticing for me is to have to pull way back and look at the entire process to get to where I am, and then look really far out to where I want to go, sometimes even past me. I'm noticing lately that it's really helpful to not even just look at my vision, but I've been thinking about how my kids are going to launch out of this life I'm creating, and create their own trajectory. So like even looking at that, or like looking at this way longer span and considering my choices right now in that like the much longer time frame, both behind me and in front of me. It seems like there's something essential to aligned slow living, slow visioning, yeah, with that looking way back and way forward.
I love that. I love that.
Mm,
What does okay, what does slow visioning mean to you?
okay, I've been thinking about this a lot for the past like 24 hours, and every time I try to pull slow visioning uh, out into its own, like what's just slow visioning, I find it challenging to do. It feels like it is connected to slow living, and I
Mhm.
almost can't separate entirely slow visioning from slow living. um so there's a connection there, because for me, if I think of slow visioning as the type of visioning that um I'm focused on the quality of the vision, the integrity of the vision, the alignment of the vision I'm creating with like the deepest part of myself. And I'm, as opposed to either getting clear on my vision really quick or getting to my vision really quick, the key piece is my everyday alignment in my life. It's impossible for me to be aligned in my vision if I'm not aligned in my, every day in my life. And like the visioning is a process. You can't be aligned, do it once, and then have it be static and you've done it. It doesn't work like that. It's a process. So if you're always in the process of visioning in one form or another, um, and that visioning is springing from your life, every day or every moment you choose to engage in it, then it's so essential to feel or to be in like alignment or connection just in your life, so you can discern the direction you want to go. You can discern like the vision that lights you up. So I'm not really fully answering that question, but that's a piece of it to me, is that it's so it's so connected. You can't, and I think that's um, part of the connection between looking backwards and looking forwards is like, I can't see clearly backwards. Like I can't look back and clearly see the lessons, see the learning unless I'm in alignment right now. And I also can't see clearly forward unless I'm in alignment right now. And so I think for me, like learning how to um vision slowly or move towards my vision slowly in this like really beautiful way that doesn't actually mean it's going to take me a lot of time has to start by learning how to live slowly in this really beautiful way, which I want so badly. I think, when you're describing this is what you want for this year, I so agree. I don't just want it for this year though. Like I want it, and I know you don't mean you only want it for 1 year either, but
Yeah.
what sounds better? Like, I think that's why I and so many people fantasize about living in like the south of France or like living in like a little town in Italy. It's just those lives. Like, what sounds better than that? Living in a little coastal town in Costa Rica, like, because that's why sounds so beautiful, because that's like, oh, slow living, it's so desirable. It's so beautiful. And for one reason or another, it's not the norm here where we live, or maybe it just seems like it's not the norm. I don't know. And um, yeah, it's what my soul yearns for: slow
Mhm.
living.
Okay, so what does slow living mean to you? What does that mean to you?
It means so, okay. I feel like I'm really figuring it out in some little windows, and then there's other windows I really have to. I'm still figuring it out. So slow food. Um, I am on the same page. I don't cook any 2-day meals, but getting my ingredients, like making a delicious home cooked meal. I don't know, like, and then also doing biscuits and making a dessert and like, eating with my family and taking like um having a whole half a day to cook something is so enjoyable. And there was times in my life, there's been like little times where it seems like that's impossible. Like life doesn't give you enough time to do that. Um, and I don't want that to be true. I don't want to live a life that doesn't give me enough time to do that. And what feels really good is like to even take it a step further. Like every single morning, I eat 2 eggs from my chickens. And I love it. The more I look back, the more I look back and the more I look forward and make sure all of that's in alignment, the happier I am. So not only am I cooking my eggs every morning, but like if I look backwards, I know where those chickens came from. And if I look back even further, I know where the chickens themselves came from. And I know the way they've been like held and loved and raised. And, it's like I can see this whole chain of alignment getting to this one moment. It's not just I took time to prepare my eggs. It's like I took time to prepare these chickens, and I took time to prepare their home. And I
Mhm.
think about, yeah. So it's like all the pieces along the way, are they all lined up in integrity? And then is the way I'm living now, does it feel so good? And when I look in the future, do I want that to continue? And if all of those things line up, it feels like such beautiful alignment. And to me, that's what slow living and slow visioning is. And I know what it feels like in terms of chicken and eggs and breakfast. It's like, it's really this like rich, long line.
I
And
love the way you talk about your chickens. You
I,
make me want chickens.
I love them so much. Last night, I woke up, I was having a dream about them. I dream about my chickens all the time. And last night, well, this morning, I was dreaming that I was sleeping in the coop with them and also with the dog. I was sleeping there because I wanted to make sure they were cozy enough and they weren't like getting too cold and they were safe. And so I was having this really vivid dream about like laying in the corner of the chicken coop and checking to make sure they weren't too hot, checking to make sure none of the chickens were escaping. Like they matter so much to me. I love them so much. It's what like my subconscious wants to care for them when I'm sleeping. And that, I think that's the essence of it for me, that energy. It looks different every place, but I want to bring that energy into all the little places in my life.
So that's where it feels really clear.
Yeah.
Where in your life, what little areas or corners does it not feel like that?
Yeah. Do you know where I'm actively trying to discern it right now is with my kids and what I want to teach them? And
Mhm.
like this relates to school, this relates to the rules I create, this relates to the responsibilities they have, this relates to I'm just like really considering, I've been really been thinking about how am I forming you and what do I hope for you and like all of this stuff. So for example, um sometimes there's this like illusion of urgency with something. So if like one of my kids feels behind in school in a certain place, sometimes I think I gotta help you catch up. I gotta help you catch up on this like concept that you feel behind on. The other day, I don't know if I might have told you this already, but the other day I was sitting at the table with my son and he looked at me and we're eating and he was like, "Mommy, am I dumb?" And I was like, "What? No, why would you say that?" Oh, there's some things that like I don't know and other kids do know. And I just I think they think I'm dumb. And the feelings in my heart, let me tell you,
Oh.
oh, it's just like anyway, so there was a part of me there that felt like, okay, what do we need to work on? We're gonna get into action right now. I'm gonna catch you up. I'm gonna like do all these things. And maybe, I don't know, there's like a time and a place for catching up, but like but what I've been navigating there is like, okay, pull back a little more. Don't look at just right now, just this moment. This is happening and I'm having emotions about it. I wanna look back. So it's helpful for me to look back and think about the foundation he has, the like, you know, the foundation I gave him when he was a little kid, and it brings me a little reassurance like, no, okay, you know what? He's on track. And then I think about where I want him to go, what I hope for him. Not like I'm going to choose the details of the direction, but if I think about I want him to feel so happy and I want him to feel so confident. I want him to love whatever he does and I want him to, you know, then what does that mean? What do I want to do for him? Where do I want to actually pour the energy into supporting him? And then the answer changes from let's sit down and work on this math concept to let's spend more time doing something you love and having you build confidence there. You know, it changes the choices. But I feel like and then also in relation to like the slow living with kids and like I guess slow parenting
Mhm.
is that there are a limited number of hours in the day. I also have realities of getting tired and it's so cute. He just got a cell phone which I really love for him because he's at his dad's half the time and I love that when he's there now. Oh, my screen. Okay.
Michelle, if you're not watching this video, she's got fireworks going off in the background here. Some like digital things going on. Okay, please continue.
Um, so I love that when he's not with me, he now has a way to communicate with me directly without having to ask somebody to, you know, get in touch with me. And the past couple nights, he's been texting me all night when he hasn't been feeling good. And I've been like drifting off to sleep. I hear my phone buzz and then I'm responding to him. And there's a part of me that loves it so much. I'm like, oh, he can reach out to me when he needs me. I'm here for him. This feels so good. And then there's a part where I'm like, I'm tired and I need to go to sleep now, you know? So there's realities of how much energy I have. But that's what I've been navigating a lot in parenthood. And it doesn't feel, it's like I'm getting clarity. I've got a good foundation of the type of parent I want to be, slow parenting that, looks not just right in front of me, but also really long term, and not to panic about trying to fit everything in right now. But I'm still figuring it out. Like it's not, I still have fears coming up and doubts and like, whoa, what if I'm not doing enough right now? Or what if I'm getting it wrong? Or so I'm really inside of that. I'm really inside of the refinement of trying to find that super aligned ripple that you know, comes from the very beginning and also goes. So like when I think about starting at the very beginning, I just think about like when your kids are born and you have this like precious little baby and you're just like, I just love you so much. I'll protect you. I will love you. I want you to know you are absolutely perfect, deserving of everything in the entire world. And I just want to like protect you and love you. And then also thinking forward to like them watching out in the world and being capable and being able to be resilient and overcome adversity. And so like what honors the ripple from like the very beginning to them living in this life when I'm not here anymore. And sometimes I have these moments where I feel like I enter the stream or like the flow of that like alignment. And then other times I'm struggling for it. So yeah, that's a place. But like I think there's a world right now too where the opposite of slow parenting is like um there are some I'm oh but
Yeah.
for you like I know now like you do two nice little walks at least with Nala every day, right?
Yeah.
And I think from the outside looking in, that rhythm that you have with her, you guys are nestled into the slow living one slow living rhythm together of like you both
Hmm.
need to go, you're both animals and you both
Hmm.
thrive off your walks. And
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. We're in sync.
yeah.
I'm in sync with my dog. So okay, so slow living with your chicken, slow living with your kids. What else comes up for you when you think about slow living?
Mm. um Maybe this is the part where it starts to trickle into vocation and visioning. you know I'm thinking about, I don't have answers here, more questions. I'm thinking about having a spark of an idea in any part of a vision. And then, through the waves of burning inspiration and, um, urgency of paying bills and all of these push and pulls, like moving towards a piece of a vision directly, um, without rushing, without cutting corners, without trying to escape the present, which I think is what we're talking about all the time, really. But what? I don't, I don't even know where I'm going, but I think this is where it starts to trickle into, okay, there's the everyday rhythms of life. And then
Mhm.
there's, okay, and what vision am I heading towards? And with a vision, one thing I'm noticing is um, how much some pieces of that vision change. Like there's certain core pieces that never change, but like how much the details change. And if you're trying to go too fast directly towards a vision that you put on paper once, you almost risk you risk going on detours and actually it taking longer to get to your vision,
Mhm.
you know? So I think slow visioning actually probably helps you move towards your true vision more directly as opposed to getting caught up in detours. I think this is true in like the all of the slow living, slow eating, slow parenting, slow relationships, slow lovemaking, slow, like all the things. With slow visioning, I think one characteristic that goes across all of them is that you have okay, for me, I have to let myself be an an animal, like a living, breathing animal, and not get stuck in an idea. I think there's like slow to me means actually living and being alive. And I've noticed a temptation in the past. I have these inspired ideas, and then my brain interprets them and like extrapolates them at other points, and I create a vision. And there's a danger in being too attached to an idea instead of the living, breathing animal that I am. So slow visioning has that element to it too, where it's less about an idea, and the vision is like breathed to life by like the truth of this animal that I actually am. And the picture, the vision needs to change as my body is responding to whatever I'm looking at or wherever I'm going. Yeah, I think I think I'm a little scattered in my thoughts about this one.
No, I love this. And this is the I think for me this is like the crux of it is I can live when I live slowly, I am I am really truly in the present moment. When I and I really love your like the way that you posit I'd never thought of that before, but w it feels true for me too that when I'm actually in the present moment, I do have like proper hindsight and proper foresight in a
Mm,
way that doesn't feel urgent, rushed, shameful or any, it's just like it's really clear. So it's like when I'm in the present moment, it's just so clear. And for me, okay, so when I'm in the present moment, it feels so clear. And if I could live my life from this place of the present moment, that is where I can live slowly and intentionally and mindfully. But then you throw a vision in there, and all my insides start to get fired up, and ideas start to get want to be birthed through me, and possibilities start to open up. And then all of a sudden, it's so my work this year and beyond is to balance these two things because I don't want just pure presence, not visioning. And visioning without presence is not slow visioning. It's
mm,
fast, it's furious, it's um hustled, it's just not an enjoyable experience to get to the vision. It's just not been there, done that, don't want to do that anymore. Like don't want to do that anymore. And so my work this year is to and I've been able to do it, but I want to like this is what I want my new reality to be. I don't want to waver anymore. I want this to be this is my new way of being is that I can balance those two things. And the visioning process I have these very predictable patterns in my visioning process that I've noticed, especially when new ideas are being birthed. So when a new vision is like bubbling to the surface, or something's getting clear about the vision, and you feel all of the energy within, and you feel that fire, you feel it building, and it's almost like you're launching this vision out into the world. And then it's time to step into action. It's like there is a time for me for creation of the vision, and then there's a time of okay, now let's put our feet forward towards the vision and make sure our feet are landing right in front of us, going towards that North Star. There's a point where all of a sudden, where my feet are landing, I'm no longer in that presence. And
mm.
I'm things are speeding up. I'm starting to fast forward. I'm starting to I mean, I can feel it in my body. I can feel my heart racing. I can feel my breath not my breath shallowing. I can feel my nervous system kind of like get on fire a little bit, And when I'm in that state, I'm rushing. There's a sense of urgency. And so and then I have to catch myself and come back. And so my goal is slow. Is like, I want to stay here longer. I want to stay in this present moment and be able to vision. I think that what happens is that my mind believes this is possible. My mind believes in the potential of vision. But then it almost like there's like a tripwire or something that happens inside of me where it's like it's almost like I'm envisioning this like baton being passed. It's like this like deeper soulful part of me is like creating with the universe. It's like my soul's connected and it's like visions being birthed. And then all of a sudden my mind's like, okay, now give me the baton so I can go run with this now and go make this happen. And the second that switch happens, I'm gone.
Hmm.
I'm out of my slow living.
What do you think is the key to um, not letting your mind run to like run in an attached way towards the vision?
So a big key for me, and so a little experiment, this, Michelle, but a little experiment I've been on for the last maybe month and a half is I just did this little experiment of what if every morning in my journal where I'm used to just like doing my visioning work, what if every morning instead of doing any vision, what if I just focused on gratitude for today?
Mm.
Like, what am I grateful for right here, right now? And that was like really intentionally, like an intentional practice that was I wanted to cultivate to help me get in this like slow-minded state. And oh my gosh, did that ever work? Like in insane ways.
Yeah.
Um, but what was happening was I was also so grateful for everything. That it was like the vision was like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I meant it.
Hmm.
And it felt really good to be that detached for a while. It felt like really nice. But then all of a sudden, like some new visions were starting to percolate inside of me,
Hmm.
and wanting to be like launched and birthed and created. And that state, that equilibrium that I found, that equanimity that I found is kind of being rumbled with right now,
Hmm.
you know? Because now, and I was journaling about this morning, I'm like, oh, I really want this vision.
Yeah.
I know I don't I like when I was just doing gratitude work, I felt so detached. I think I was telling you that. I'm like, "Whoa, I feel so detached. It feels so wonderful to feel so detached." So how do you do both? This is my work this year I want to feel that because when I was feeling that, oh my goodness, I was the mother I want to be. I was the wife I want to be. I was the dog owner I want to be. I was the teacher I want to be. I was the human that felt so good, but I felt disconnected from the vision.
Hmm. Do you want to know the theory that I would like to prove true for myself?
All right.
Um, a couple nights ago, I was taking the dog for a walk in the woods and it was nighttime and I think I was escaping a busy house. So I was just like really like, I'm just hanging here. We're in the woods. We're like, I'm gonna kill time. So I was not what I was not that I'm ever in a rush walking, but I was like extra just like I just want to be out here alone. And this dog has a really strong drive to bite and chew. So, like, in his perfect world, if he could just be like biting things and people all day, he would be the happiest he could ever be. And so he gets these massive logs, like not even sticks, but like logs that are like almost too heavy for me to carry. And he starts chewing them and he won't stop unless you make him stop. If you walk somewhere else, he'll carry these logs with him and he'll just go. And I stood there for almost like 30 minutes and just watching him like, and he shreds it. And the progress he makes is wild. And I was like, this is so interesting. This animal is working so hard, not because he thinks he has to. There's no like productive thing in this, right? This
Mhm.
animal is working so hard because it's some drive. He's just like, his jaw is like, yeah, I just want to chew. I just want to chew. And I was just like marveling at it. And I was like, sometimes I find him so annoying because he has that type of
He does
drive,
have an
right?
insane drive.
But I was
Yeah.
like, it's actually so impressive. I just sat there watching him so impressed. Look. And I was like, man, imagine if like, and I started brainstorming ways I could channel this more. I was like, I just look at this energy. It just needs to be channeled properly. And my theory that I really want to prove true, I don't know if I could like say I've proven it true, but like the theory that I'm attempting to live by, that I am hoping proves to be true, is that I have a drive like that too. Everyone has a drive like that. And my theory is that when I tap into that drive that actually wants to come out of me, not because I think like, oh, this is what I should do, but the thing that just, if I just let myself, I would just do, then that is going to be the key to moving me towards my vision. And it doesn't have to involve, it's not going to have to involve like my mind. It's not going to have to involve, just like any ideas, any mental attachment. It's just, to me, I just want it to feel so pure, like what does the creative energy in me want to do? And um because I relate to what you're saying about an idea. And then I'm like, okay, this idea makes me so happy inside and I want to get there. So how am I going to do it? And in the past, there's been like, okay, I got to buckle down and I got to do it. But it's a bit like, ugh, an unhappiness creeps in because my mind is, focusing on ideas instead of harnessing like, what's the pure drive? And I have a feeling for me, that's the key. That's the key of like, because you can still be in the moment when you're surrendering to your instincts of what you just want to do, you can be very in the moment. You can be surrendered. You're not really worried about how quickly you're shredding the log. You're just like, feels so good to shred the log, you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
That's the premise I am operating on, and we'll see. We'll see if it proves to be true.
Yeah. I like that. I think I have a bit of a different relationship with drive. My drive actually scares me. Because it always starts so ever since becoming an entrepreneur and ever since like working for myself and building something for that I want to build and not doing it in a corporate environment. It's been born from this really pure place, and then my drive, it's almost like there's a soul drive and a mind drive,
Mm,
and
yeah.
my mind drive takes over, and that is what can lead to burnout and exhaustion. And so I think I have a little bit of discernment to do around uh you know what well, I mean, I know what flips that switch, but I need to be really, really, I love when that switch is being made, and maybe more and more intentional about checking in more regularly about like where's this particular drive coming from.
If you had to just feel the difference right now, what does soul drive feel like as opposed to mind drive?
Mind drive always has a flavor of urgency, not enough urgency. It needs to be done now. Someone's waiting on this now. People are expecting this now. If you don't get this out now, like something bad, maybe not something bad's going to happen, but you're going to miss out on this opportunity. Or so mind drive feels there's a sense of urgency, there's a sense of chaos. Um, there's a sense of like kind of spinning in circles.
Mm.
There's a sense of operating on fumes. There's a sense of ignoring my body's cues of like needing rest or needing to like shut it off. Whereas soul drive, you know, we've been as a team in like lots of wonderful discussions lately of some really beautiful creations that are being birthed, co-created through all of us. And so yesterday we had a beautiful meeting, you, me, and Miranda, and it was in person, which I love because most of our work is virtual. And after that, um, I had one more meeting after that. But anyways, after that, I had this space in between, and I took a nap because it felt so good to, you know, co-create from that soul place. And then what my soul really wanted to do after that was nap and like rest because it's a lot of energy creating.
Mhm.
What my mind would have wanted to do was like, get to action, get to work now, you know? But my soul just wanted to like meditate on everything that just happened and let it all like sink into my cells and, and rest and take a little savasana and reset. So my soul drive is much more creative, much more open, much less fixated on all the hows. It's very open. It's open to change. It's not trying to interpret. It's just much more open and receptive to what I'm feeling in the moment.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, slow living for me, slow business.
Mm.
If I can't, um, if I can't be inside of slow business, because business is such a large part of the piece of my pie right now of my all the different areas of my life. If I can't apply slowness to this key area of my life, that like trickles out into all the other key areas of my life. This is the key for me.
Mm.
When I'm on vacation or it's holiday time, like, oh my God, I could cook a 2-day meal because that brings me so much joy. It's actually ridiculous.
Mm.
It's like I can live so slowly at home, but you insert business and there's moments where I can be so slow inside of business and moments where I can't, where I feel like I can't. And so what does slow business mean? Oof. I want to master that this year. What does slow business mean?
Mm. What does slow prosperity mean?
What does slow prosperity mean?
Mm.
Yeah.
What?
What does
Let's talk
Yeah.
about that because I like
Okay.
that. It's obviously connected to slow visioning, connected to slow business. There's a relationship there. So what would slow prosperity mean?
Mm.
Anything coming to you?
Yeah, for me, I this could be just me. Slow prosperity. Slow prosperity means being slow prosperity doesn't mean a windfall or easy money to me. Slow prosperity means being in such integrity with the money I have. It means spending so intentionally and like being so like honoring every dollar I have if I'm relating prosperity to actual wealth and,
Mhm.
and money. It means being intentional where that my dollars are going out. How I'm bringing dollars in is just as important. Like that's got to feel really good. I read this fantastic book called Happy Money. Did I ever tell you about that book? I think I did.
Is that the one you were just reading?
Yeah, I was reading it about maybe like 6 months ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe.
Oh, The Soul of Money is that the one? Anyways, there's a great book called Happy Money, and it was talking about like how money has like a vibration. And the way we make money and the way we give money can be happy, can be sad, can be shameful, can be angry, can be annoyed. And like, what is the vibration of the money that you have and the vibration of the money that you're putting out, the vibration, the money that you're receiving? So prosperity means like being really just like in tune and in touch with that. It also means having a vision for more and putting my money where my dreams are, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Even if that means going into debt for something towards what I want, you know? And like just being so intentional with money. And then for me, there's something about like the slow burn that I love. I love slow burn. I love the slow burn in relationships. I love the slow burn in business. I love the slow burn in my romance novels. I love the feeling of something slowly building in excitement, anticipation, and gratitude, and like slowly building towards something. And then when that something finally comes, or like you get these, moments of it, but when it comes, there's something about arriving in that and looking back and saying, "Wow, like, was I ever intentional? Was I ever intentional with every step I took or with every, every decision I made along this journey to get to this prosperity or to get to this success or to get to this vision?" And there's this feeling of like, I earned that. I earned it. Not necessarily with the amount of hours I logged in and worked. That's not what I mean. It's like, I earned it, you know? And it's
Yeah.
here to stay. It's not like fast, furious success that just like almost like you can't hold on to because you haven't, it's to me anyway, that's what it feels like. That's what slow prosperity means to me.
Mm. When you're explaining that, what was coming to me is like slow prosperity, as with I think everything else slow, um, comes with a certain sense of something being really sustainable, like in alignment and sustainable.
Mhm.
So, for example, trying to speed something up out of urgency and frantically pouring in extra work or like digging in trying to speed something up, that type of energy isn't like that's not sustainable output. It could like you could get burned out that way. um like in the past I've seen you go through waves of that in the MRA, right? Like there's a line trajectory, and every once in a while it's like you start working really hard and then you're like, oh no.
Mhm.
That way.
Mhm.
Um, it's like I think I'm getting the sense that it's there has to be like um with prosperity, with the prosperity that sounds good to me anyway. Real prosperity, I agree, it doesn't mean like one massive chunk of money that comes at once, or like it's not even a certain amount. To me, prosperity is feeling like money can flow in and it's enough. So it's like a sense of flow, right? And so any circumstances that have to put me out of alignment to keep it coming, that doesn't feel like prosperity. Like if I have to overwork or I have to take time away from other things or other pieces of my life to make it happen, um, that can't really last. That has to go away. And that doesn't, anything that's out of alignment eventually has to end.
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
So to me, prosperity feels like I really like the picture you painted, getting closer and closer to prosperity through things that are purely in alignment. If something is purely in alignment, you feel like this can continue. And money or work coming in that you don't have a feeling deep in your gut that it can continue, you're probably still going to feel scarcity because you can't keep it
Mhm.
up forever, right? And so the
Right.
idea, yeah, so like I love this idea of just, the work is not necessarily crazy hours, but the work of like moving towards the flows and streams of prosperity that feels so good. You think I can stay here. Wow, that is such an abundant thought. I can stay in this place that the gates of abundance and prosperity are open to me.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, and that's freedom.
Yeah.
That is like the antidote to like a scarcity mindset is is believing that the floodgates are open to you.
Hmm.
I was going to say something else about that felt important about prosperity. This intentionality that feels important when I think about building prosperity. This intentionality feels important because the way I am intentional about every dollar today, I want that I want that energy in like a good energy, not a scarcity energy, like, because that could easily slip too. But I want that energy whether or not I have just enough money to pay my bills every month or ridiculous amounts of extra money to cover my bills every
Mm.
month. Like I I I want that level of intentionality and that level of reverence and respect for this currency and and where do I want to funnel that and that's like a mindset that gets built over time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you think all of these little examples apply to like a bigger principle of visioning in general? So like no matter what you're visioning towards, whether what's in your vision right now is relationship or vocation or prosperity or like
Or
what are
all
we
of it. Yeah.
yeah, like what are we saying is the bigger principle of like sustainable, aligned, slow visioning?
Well, okay, so maybe it would be helpful to actually think also about what would the opposite of that be.
Mm,
And so I see a lot of the opposite out there of fast manifestation, um, fast and furious goal setting and like
mm,
hustle culture of getting there. And I also see people giving up on their dreams because it's not coming quick enough.
mm.
That's like heartbreaking to see,
Yeah.
because they've given up because it's not coming, or I've got, or some adversities come up and it's not for me or whatever. I think we're also used to like we're in this world we live in, we're used to instant gratification and like instant results. And depending on what your feed looks like in social media, you might also be seeing people talking about their big results and their, and which you don't what so that's like the opposite of visioning.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's the opposite of slow visioning. It's just like
Yeah.
fast and furious visioning, instant
Yeah.
instant gratification visioning.
Yeah.
Slow visioning is the slow burn. It's 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 not a goal to aspire to. It's like visioning becomes a way of your being, you know?
Yeah.
And in the slow visioning space, it feels deeply creative. It's not coming from inside the mind. For me anyway, it comes from like in my body. Like it's like something deeper than my mind that's speaking, and that's wanting to create. It's also like looking for the ways that it's already here. And for me, gratitude is a massive component of being able to access what is already here and being able to see what has already come to fruition and placing my attention on that just expands that energy, you know, as I'm walking towards the vision. Anything coming up for you as I
Yeah, I was thinking, I was getting a little more clarity on what I was saying about how, like looking back and looking forward. So I I think no matter what I'm visioning about, um sometimes looking back, so something I've been doing lately is I've been thinking about my grandparents and thinking about, you know, their lives, what I imagine were their life lessons, what I imagine they would want for me. So like thinking about like ancestors in terms of like looking way back in the past. And so if I ask the if I really sit back and contemplate like thinking about their lives, what they lived for, how like what did it amount to? What do I think that they would, if I imagine them like looking down from heaven, cheering me on, like what do they want from me? That answer, whatever answer comes in my heart, feels really important to consider in terms of, you know, what am I really visioning? Like what do I really want? And then same with the looking forward of, so like what honors my ancestors? And then what honors my children? Like looking forward. So the answer and the place those two things meet, if I consider both of those things, what honors my ancestors and what honors my children or like my grandchildren, the overlap there, the thing that's true in both of those cases, oh, that's something probably so pure that my soul really, really wants and it really, really, really matters. And I find for me, when I have access to like the core of those things, that's something unlikely to really give up on. It's something that it's like, even though I get discouraged or maybe I take a detour for a couple years, it's like it calls me back and I'm like, oh, this. I think having access to something that like is that pure um helps, just like helps, because it's not going to like later fall away. It's it's gonna, I think the answer of what honors my ancestors and what will honor my grandchildren in the future, whatever is true there is something so beautiful that it's like, um it's worth whatever slow means. It's worth the time, it's worth the discernment, it's just, yeah, that, I think that is the key. And that's the key for me in everything, in relationship, in money, in vocation, in parenting, in um and sometimes, like I write a vision, I get so excited about it. And then later, it's like, oh, maybe that piece is, I can let go of those sentences and maybe it's more of this. But just like making sure I'm always staying as close as I can to the heart of that, to the heart of what honors the past and the future. That to me is probably the essence of slow visioning, because what's so cool about that is like some pieces of my vision that are important or that I'm trying to honor, maybe they don't even, maybe I don't even see the full fruition in my lifetime.
Yeah, I
Like,
do.
I see some pieces of it, but the idea that I'm building on something that came before me and building something that'll keep going after me, those are the kind of things that to me inspire. um it's like, it's a more humbling type of like work I'm putting in. It's not really the type of work where like I worry about not being good enough or failing. Like if I have a little goal, when I think about writing a book and I think about it just as me, and I think about like, oh, I want to write a book, and oh gosh, wouldn't it be so cool if I sold this many books, and what if I made this much money? That's the kind that, yeah, that's great. But that's the kind of energy where I can get really tripped up of like, ooh, but then what if it's like, what if people don't
Mm.
like it? Ooh, that sucks. Or ooh, what if I don't make a lot of money? Ooh, that'll suck. Or what if, some perceived failure can kind of like stop me. But if I think about something way bigger and I think about like If I think about writing a book from the perspective of like, what if I'm giving a voice to like everything my grandparents gave me and that I like want to give my children, and I just feel like I'm a piece of expressing something. I don't really care if it's like of like a failure in terms of numbers. It's something so different. And
Mm, yeah.
that's the type of visioning that makes me feel like work is worth it, or like I feel that creative energy, or it feels like a lot in alignment. It's like it feels like that slow living. It feels like the chickens,
Yes,
you
it
know?
so does. Oh, yes. Like you're getting to the heart of your vision, like beyond the superficial things that might be in there, which are fine, but yeah, you're getting to the heart of the vision, it just simply anchors you into
Yeah.
slow.
Yeah.
It simply anchors you into the process and how good it feels and like the journey to get there.
Yeah. You know, one thing I was noticing last week, I was spending a lot of time in the woods over like our Christmas break. Um, and one thing I'm noticing as like we're like always working on the trail that we have around our property. And I do a lot of like discernment. I have like a lot of thought process that before we like cut trees down, I'm like, it's a big deal to cut a tree down. It's a living thing. Okay, like
Mhm.
does this do I really want to cut this tree down? And so, you know, I spend a lot of time really like thinking about which ones we cut down, what needs to be trimmed. And I was looking through thinking about it, and like, I can't just think about what tree needs to be cut down right now. I have to think about in you know, whatever trees are there in 20 years, what are the ones that will be growing right there, and how much space do they need, and what will the question like what could this trail look like in 50 years from now, help shed a lot of clarity on, oh, it things become more clear right now of like, oh, actually this little if this tree grows and this little one can't survive anyway because this tree is going to grow huge. It helps bring clarity. And it's funny, I don't feel a sense of urgency in relation to that because it's so pure. It's the natural way of things. And I'm like, oh, it's so cool to think about that trail in 50 years. But in other places of my life, it's been really hard. Like it's been really hard to think about prosperity or vocation in terms of like a 50-year time frame. You know, it's like
Yeah.
not it's not the way I've been thinking about things. It's really tricky to think about it, but I think there's something freeing, almost like, you know how you were talking about you loved the state of being surrendered and unattached.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like having a longer time frame of like 50 years helps give me a sense of that
Completely.
detachment, but I'm still focused. It's just I need a much
Mhm.
short term feels hard to be unattached.
Short runways, yes. Short runways flip my switch.
Mm.
That's what flips my switch. So my mind's like, "Okay, we've got a lot of work to do here, and this, like, creative, slow energy is not going to cut it," you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, short runways do that. So I totally agree.
Mm.
Zooming out, like, looking at that big picture. I love thinking about it. I love that invitation. I don't think I've ever thought about that 50-year, like, what does this look like in 50 years? I've never zoomed out that much, but I
Mm.
like this invitation to do that.
Yeah. What does that mean for short runways? Because like sometimes there is a
There
short
are,
runway.
right?
You know, we
Life.
have one right
Yeah.
now in the
Yeah.
background.
Yeah.
So what is that like? How could how could a 50-year view help inform our short runway?
Mhm. What a great question. What a great question. It's when I was growing up, a saying that my parents always used to say, it was my dad actually would always used to ask me this question, and it was because his grandmother always used to ask him this question. And so whenever I ask myself this question, I think of my great grandmother, who I only met when I think she died when I was 2. So I don't know her, but I feel her. I feel her spirit. And the question was like, will this matter in a year from now? And it was such a empowering question when my dad used to ask me that when I was really young, when I would face these like really these elementary school problems that felt like the end of the world in the moment, like this person's not talking to me, or I wasn't invited to the sleepover. And that question was like the biggest zoom out I could possibly have because I couldn't think about anything beyond a year from now in that
Right.
frame, you know? But that question always reframed things for me. You know, it was like it's like anchored in my subconscious, that question. And I wonder if now, because we're older adults with much more lived experience, the question of like, how will this impact 50 years from now? Will this matter in
Right.
50 years from now? And if we
Yeah.
think about the short runways and the short targets and goals we have coming up, of course it won't. It's
Right.
not even a drop in the bucket. We won't even
Right.
remember this.
Yeah.
And so it brings that energy of, okay, there's goals, there's things to be done, but really in the grand scheme of things, does this impact your legacy? Does this impact your children's legacy?
Mm.
Does this impact the way you honor your ancestors? Like the answer to that question is most probably not, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
So maybe that's like a little motto we have to ask ourselves and remember. But that's what's coming
Mm.
up for me.
I like that because if we were to ask ourselves, will this matter in a year from now? The answer
We'd
would
be
be
like,
like,
yes, it does.
yeah, it really does. Um,
Yeah.
but also, okay, like what's the right amount of time for like us to use within the MRA? Because I love 50 years in my forest because it makes sense, but like for the
Right.
MRA, maybe like I don't know, 50 years might be a bit far. Maybe we're like, oh, we're retired, like we're old in
Right.
50 years, so maybe
Let's hope we're not working in the MRA in 50 years from now.
how old would be like I'll be like almost
Yeah.
90.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe we will be. Who knows? Maybe we'll still be having these conversations.
Okay, so what about like what feels the right amount of time for like
Well,
this
even 5 years.
5 years? Okay.
Will this matter in 5 years? This of course not.
No. Okay.
And you know what? Even the answer to will this matter in a year from now? Maybe our minds would say yes, but is that really true? Like I would challenge that.
Yeah.
Is that really true? You know?
Right.
But maybe 5 years is just a better longer term, longer runway to
Yeah.
just like, you know, reset the
Mm.
nerves and reset the mind.
I like this. Okay, I'm gonna like add to this. Um maybe even more than will this matter in 5 years from now. So when we're thinking about when that energy kicks in for
The
us, the urgency, like
urgency. Yeah.
we've got a short runway, we have a short-term vision, there's work we know that we want to do to get there. Um maybe we look at the work we're doing as like, yep, we do have work we're doing to get towards like this short runway goal, but maybe it becomes this work I'm doing right now, how is this fueling the 5-year vision, you know?
Mm,
Like
I like that.
yeah, like I'm pouring this in now and yep, maybe it's going to help and we're really doing it. We're hoping it's going to, help for the short term. But even if we miss our
Mhm.
short-term goals, we can rest assured like this work is still building us towards our 5-year
Yes.
goals, you
Yeah,
know?
I love that. And that and what is true and what, coming back to some of the principles of prosperity and the principles of slow prosperity is that is this principle of like sufficiency and enough in
Mm.
terms of um you know I believe that if we're on our path, there will be enough,
Yeah.
as we build towards these bigger dreams, and we will have what we need when we need it, and sometimes not a moment sooner.
Yeah.
along this like slow and intentional path.
Mhm. Okay. I like it. I
Me
like it.
too.
I'm
I like
I'm
it too.
I'm extra excited about our goals now.
Yeah. It's some good like some good intention, some good anchoring intentions
Yeah.
to help stay focused and zoomed out.
Mhm. There's one other question that keeps popping in my mind because I've heard students ask it so many times in different ways that I think might sort of relate to this conversation is um, someone's gone through. So at the beginning of of our program, someone generally comes into practitioner training and then goes on to the coach
Mhm,
pathway. Anyway, the way we label that is maybe shifting a little bit.
mhm,
Um, at the end of practitioner training, people emerge with a vision statement, and
mhm,
sometimes it's short and sometimes it's long, but this vision. And then I often hear students like months later, like 6 months later, I've heard, I'm not excited about my vision anymore. Like, what's happening? Do I just need to is my vision wrong? Do I need to rewrite it? Like, what's happening? Yeah, let's talk about that for a second
Okay.
because I've heard so many people say it. So, what do you think that means in terms of this concept of slow visioning? What's that a sign of to you?
So I don't think so doing some beautiful visioning work and having your ideas birthed and put on paper, and then there it is, there's my vision. And then, like, to me, that is a living, breathing creation.
Mhm.
And that needs to be tended to in my personal experience and world daily.
Mm.
I need to tap into it in some form or another daily. If I were to have created something and then closed that book and not looked at it for 6 months, I would feel completely disengaged with my vision because
Yeah.
it's like because my vision 6 months ago and who I am today, yeah, there's gonna be changes and there's gonna be refinements and there's gonna be things that I'm like, "Wait, no, 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 that wasn't it. I thought that was it, but no, it's this over here." And so for me, what's been so important is just to stay so deeply connected to it. And there are times where I'm feeling like low energy or going through a phase of life where something's challenging and I'm feeling more disconnected from my vision. But um but if I'm able to sit with it or journal with it enough, I can typically access that heart point that you were talking about earlier.
Mm.
Okay, if it's not like maybe I can't even picture or imagine, I can't even conceptualize like that it could be all these things over here, but like what's the heart? And like the heart of people's visions, like true heart, are so simple and
Mm.
so pure. It's so clean, and simple and pure. The heart of my vision is so accessible right here. It's so pure. It's to live slow and to savor every moment I have with my loved ones and for a feeling of freedom. And, it's like so pure when we get to that heart. So sometimes the way our minds have conceptualized what that looks like or some of the goals we've attached to that can feel inaccessible or it can feel not not able to like access that energy. But if I sit with the heart and I get to the heart, like that's always there,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I do think that this visioning process is like this is um this is living, it's breathing, and it needs to be breathed into. It needs to be uh like time and energy. Like part of slow visioning is this part. Like, instead of doing all my to-dos that would get me closer to my vision every morning for an hour and a half every morning, I'm like, it seems like I'm doing nothing, like, to someone else. I'm sure Sean looks at me most mornings. He's like, "What? Which, like, like, seems like I'm not doing anything." I'm like, "No one bother me. I've got my tea. I've got my dog. I've got my house coat. I've got the fire lit, and I've got the lights dim and candles going, and I've got my journal.
Mhm.
No one bug me." You know what I mean? But it's not a to-do list. It's like I'm in the vision and creation process because it's so alive. It's so
Yeah.
alive.
Oh, I like that. I think that's a really key connection. I think um slow visioning, same with slow everything. There's a relationship to being alive, like
Mhm.
really alive, living, breathing, changing, evolving. Um and if you're not really present, you could
Yeah.
miss something really important.
Right, and then when you're walking a path off, so if your vision is this living, breathing thing somewhere that feels like it's out in the distance just because of, like, our time-space continuum, but if your vision is this living, breathing thing over here, and it's like it's constantly taking shape and shifting, and it's not, like, bouncing over here, but it's, like, ever so slightly pivoting over here and ever so slightly pivoting over there, and it's like getting clearer over here. And so if we've put that vision away and we're just in action steps and we weren't attuning ourselves to the changes in the living breathing vision, like, by the time we get halfway, we could be completely off course.
Yeah.
Right? So, and completely off course now means we're in the bushes. We're on the detoured route towards, like, what our heart and soul really wants, because we're actually disconnected from it completely.
Mm.
We're not attuned to it, you know?
Yeah.
And so then it's a process of, like, coming back home to ourselves so that we can reorient towards and ask ourselves continuously, what is it that I actually yearn for?
Yeah. There's like a balance between the very, very core of something that we were talking about that is so simple and so pure and so unchanging, but almost everything else about the vision and what we can see and how we think we're going to get there, all of that, for me, shifts in and out of focus and changes, and I
Mhm.
see new possibilities all the time. The universe or life kind of makes me go, "Oh, I didn't imagine that." And you can't imagine the new things until
Yeah.
you've gone. You said something this morning that was, like, blowing your mind. I forget how you phrased it. It was about, like, how you can kind of, like, change your mind or go in a new direction at any time and the implications of that. Do you
Yeah.
wanna
Yeah, this is, like, the most simple concept in the entire universe, but for some reason this morning, this was blowing my mind. But it was the sense of when we walk our path of life, we have these, sometimes big, sometimes micro decision points, sometimes micro choices to make. Sometimes it's as simple as, where am I looking? Like, where am I going? What am I oriented towards? What vision am I oriented towards? And we have, it's not that fate will bring you to your vision no matter what steps you take. It's not that simple. It's not that would be easy. Like, no matter what I do in this lifetime or what choices I make, the outcome is it's going to be the same outcome. You know? It's like, no, we have unlimited choices. We have unlimited decision points to make in a day, action steps to take, and points of reference and perspectives that we choose to look through, and that which inform our choices. And every single one of those has the power to change the direction of where we're going.
Mm.
Every single one of those can change and alter the course of our entire lives. And then if we think about, some of the things that you've been bringing up here, like how that ripples out, how does that change the course of my children's life and their children's life? And so, yeah, that concept that was just blowing my mind earlier because, even though, yes, of course, like this is like very simple, but it's true. And I think back to some like such key decision points along my path, you know, had I stayed in my corporate job and like squandered this like yearning that felt like the teeniest flicker of a flame at first. It wasn't a fire burning deep. It was just like this like teeny flicker of a flame. Imagine I just like squashed that and never spent the time just like, what are you? What do you want? Little vision, little dream, and like over the course of like a decade and a half, just like building that. Imagine I just squashed that. I would still be I would still be in a corporate job that sucked my soul and brought me no joy or meaning. I
Yeah.
would still like that little those little micro choices we make that change the course of your life.
Mm.
It's like that's big. And sometimes those are not even choices, those are perspectives that you choose to see life through, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And I think so the way you're describing it here is like almost pre-vision, right? Like
Okay.
that was like such a huge course altering choice that took you towards this new vision. And I think that can happen in big ways and in small ways, even once you feel like
Yeah,
this
totally.
beautiful vision has come to you, you know? And if you're not really attuned, and if you do put the vision away, then maybe you don't notice those decision points. And sometimes, um, like feelings of, you know, there's been, when I write a vision, normally when I write it, I think it's so true. And I'm so excited about it and I'm proud of it. And I share it with people. Here's this piece. And later, if some piece of that or some piece of my lived experience on the path towards that just like isn't feeling right, there's little parts of my brain that don't want to fail in pursuit of that
Mhm.
vision,
Yeah,
right? So
totally.
there's like an attachment there, and it takes like a lot of like honesty and presence and discernment with the feelings to let go of something that I've claimed or shared or like have been
Especially if
pouring
you've shared
energy.
it and especially if you shared it out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like people, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna start my own business." It's very hard to then turn to your friends and be like, "No, I'm not doing it." Like
Yeah.
there can be a sense of um but I think it's so powerful in like in slow visioning towards moving towards like the ultimate vision that's available to you. I think you have to almost expect that that's going to happen, and to be so willing to shed the old pieces and make that new choice that oh my gosh, I was heading here right now. What if I choose new? And what if that's not a failure? What if I'm not, running away from my vision? What if I am sensing this brand new possibility on a higher timeline? And then like you have to be present to choose that. And I would venture a guess that the very, very, very core of that new timeline is, it's the same. It's the same yearning. It's just
Yeah.
the expression that's like calling to you and is lighting you up, and there's no shame or failure in choosing anew when it takes you
And
towards something.
changing your mind.
Yeah.
The other thing is that sometimes in this slow visioning process, it's not coming in as like a new yearning. Sometimes it can. It's like, "Whoa, but what about this possibility over here?" Sometimes the course correction or maybe not a course correction, or but like the new possibility that's emerging actually comes in the form of some kind of feeling of stagnation or fed upness or like a
Mhm.
negative emotion that's like or fear or something that's that's trying to get your attention at maybe, no, this part actually has to be let go, or you're not looking at this other piece that's like wanting to change and grow over here. And so being attuned and being in slow, like slow, that slow visioning process is also checking in on those corners, and that can feel more heavy or frustrating even than the following the lovely yearnings. It comes in both.
Yeah,
It comes in both.
totally. Totally.
Okay. So we talked about a lot of things.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this conversation.
Good.
Yeah, I really did. I think that this conversation helped to anchor the word slow even deeper. Um, even deeper. Yeah. Okay. Are there any other thoughts that you're having?
Yeah, so I'm coming full circle again to the idea that slow visioning, slow living, it actually doesn't mean you are um resigning yourself to having things like not come to you sooner. It really doesn't. I really don't think it means that. In fact, when we talk about new possibilities opening up, like being really present and new possibilities opening up on, the path, like, towards a different shade of a vision than you ever saw before. To me, that feels so exciting and so expansive and so full of possibility. And I think sometimes urgency for me creeps in when I am yearning for a sense of satisfaction. I'm feeling a lack of satisfaction and I want satisfaction, and my mind thinks landing in my goal will bring satisfaction. But I don't think that's true. I think there's satisfaction in being on the right path, you
Yes.
know? Um,
Yes.
behind the scenes, we've recently had a little MRA revisioning, and um so I'm like really feeling that for myself right now, that it's not reaching the goal that brings the satisfaction. It's just like it's pouring your energy into the right place, that's the satisfaction. And it feels
Hmm.
so good. And so I really just want to remember in those times where urgency creeps in and I want to speed something up and get there, I just really want to remember that that's a sign, like I'm looking for satisfaction of sinking my teeth into the thing that I want to sink my teeth into, or want to experience thing I want to experience. And that can be here. I don't know how long, not that many days ago, I was looking to a far off place to bring me satisfaction. And all of a sudden, with this shift in perspective, with these conversations we've had behind the scenes, I feel the satisfaction here now. And we haven't,
Yeah.
achieved any goals or anything. It's just, your feet walking firmly on the most aligned path. It's very satisfying, and it helps to alleviate the urgency to arrive somewhere quickly.
Yeah. I mean, that is that is like such a beautiful way to describe, and maybe a definition for slow business, slow creation, slow visioning. Okay. Thank you for this.
You're so welcome. Thank you for this.
Thank you so much for being part of this conversation. If it serves you, take a moment to contemplate what your golden nugget is from this exploration. And if you feel inspired, please feel free to share it with us in the comments of this episode on our YouTube channel. To learn more about the MRA and our renowned flagship Mind Rebel Coach Training Series that begins once a year in the spring, please visit our website at www.themindrebel.com.